You're watching NFL Daily. I am Tom Downey, and today's video is potential Baker Mayfield trade destinations via trade or via a release. And the or is still a bit of a question mark as it relates to Baker's future around the NFL. The Browns and the other NFL teams appear to be in a bit of a staring contest right now. Baker has a fully guaranteed $18.86 million salary in 2022. The Browns, well, they don't want to eat any of it because they still think Baker's a starting caliber team. They look at some teams, we'll get into it in a minute, they're like, your QB sucks. Just trade for him. Other teams are like, yeah, we don't want to pay that. Also, you gave Deshaun Watson all of the money. You kind of hurt us a little bit on that front. We don't like what you did there. So, a staring contest, a waiting game. Somebody's got to swerve at some point. It's kind of like you got two cars heading towards each other. Someone's got to move at some point, but there's a long way to go with the trade deadline. The season's still a long ways away. Baker is better than at least some of the starting QBs out there in the NFL. The problem is that it's not the best grouping that he's better than. His 2021, to be blunt, was not very good. He struggled. He had injury problems, but he also just wasn't confident. Like, he'd drop back, have three guys open. You all saw the screenshot when I football right against Steelers. He's drop back, three open, doesn't throw it. Stands there and then just takes a sack. It was horrible. But down the stretch in 2020, Baker Mayfield looked like a top 10 QB. If Sam Darnold got a shot with Carolina, somebody should be willing to give Baker a shot. Now, there is maybe the Browns keep him in case Deshaun gets suspended, which I get, but they also signed Jacoby Brissett. So the Browns organization right now is built with 5 QBs on the roster, plus that includes a practice squad guy in Harper who's not going to do anything for you because, UDFA, just a camp arm. You don't have to keep him on your roster. You don't need him, even if Deshaun misses 6 games or whatever. So because of that, I do think there's a possibility the Browns say, you know what, we'll hold him on the roster through the season and then try to trade him beyond that. We don't need him on the roster, but we will wait. And teams might say, okay, you'll cut him before we sign him. But there's we got to make our move to get our guy now. See the back and forth? It's tricky, right? So what will the Browns end up doing with Baker Mayfield? 3 options here on today's show. C for cut, T for trade, W for wait. In a moment, we are about to break down my top 5 destinations for Baker Mayfield via cut or trade. Before that, I want you guys to get your answers for me in the comment section. This question is the pinned comment on today's video. So if the ad break comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there, type in C for cut, T for trade, or W for wait. Number 5 on my list, the Detroit Lions. This one would probably be more of a cut than it would be a trade. They do have 4 QBs on the roster in Jared Goff, Tim Boyle, David Blough, and Steven Montez. I would argue the upside of Baker Mayfield is better than what Jared Goff can bring you at this stage. He hasn't been a fantastic QB by any stretch of the imagination. It just kind of feels like the Lions right now are biding their time until they get a new franchise guy locked in for a rebuilding organization. Could Baker be that guy? Maybe, but you might just be a one-year rental from that standpoint. So who will Baker play for next season? I don't think it's the Lions. They were number 5 for a reason. I think there's one team that really stands out to me. So I want you guys to make your predictions in the comments section. Who do you think Baker plays for next year? Dark horse team, how about the New York Giants? They check in at number 4 on my list here. They have 2 QBs. If they don't add Baker, they are fine on their active roster with Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor. I would also argue, however, that Baker Mayfield is better than both of those QBs because, yes, Baker Mayfield didn't have a great year this past season. Daniel Jones has had 2 bad years in a row. Now, you can also make the point that, yeah, supporting cast was terrible, however. I would rather have Baker Mayfield than Daniel Jones. I've seen Daniel Jones for 3 years, and I don't think he's ever remotely showed me the same highs that Baker Mayfield has shown me. those last 2 years are bad. And I know the supporting cast is rough. I get all of that. If he gets cut, it'd be a cut, I'd say, more so than a trade idea. I think it could make sense to bring in Baker Mayfield and allow him and Jones to compete for that starting job. Tyrod can be quarterback 3. If Baker wins the job, awesome, cool. Maybe he's your franchise guy. If Daniel wins it, cool, awesome. Maybe he's your franchise guy. If they're both bad, that's okay. Find a QB in next year's draft. Folks, we are also on Rumble. And if you want free and uncensored content on that video platform, go give us a follow at rumble.com/NFL Daily. We've got chat sports videos plus other stuff around news, politics, tech, and business. We are growing to other platforms, one that you guys already like to use. So go support us. Rumble.com/NFL Daily. We also have NFL Daily After Hours on that channel. So go support us. Rumble.com/NFL Daily. These next 3 are more, they work great as cuts, but also could be trade destinations, I think, for Baker Mayfield. The Houston Texans. Now, my reasoning for putting Mayfield and Houston at 3 here is the reports out of Houston from guys like Aaron Wilson who say Houston could actually be a surprise destination for a Baker Mayfield or a Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, I am totally down to give Davis Mills another shot as a starter. He did show some nice promise. There were some games where he played really well overall last year. The raw numbers are not earth-shatteringly good, but for a third-round pick who's young and cheap and affordable, it's not that bad of an idea. So Davis Mills, I am down to keep him. If they want some competition, Houston, I do think Baker Mayfield does make some sense, although I do wonder if Baker just wants to go somewhere where there would be no competition, or at least not that level of competition for a starting job because, well, it is Baker Mayfield after all. If and when Baker gets traded or released or whatever, you know that we'll do a video on it. So subscribe right now for more free videos all off-season long. It's youtube.com/chatsportstv. The top 2 are in similar situations. Both teams saying, we don't need Baker Mayfield. We're not going to trade for him, blah, blah, blah. Seems like a leverage play. First up is Carolina. They are number 2 on my list. I know they took Matt Corral in the 3rd round. Fine pick. He is not ready to play football games. I hope I am wrong from that standpoint. But if you are Matt Rule and you are the Panthers organization and you know that entering this year, you are fighting for your job. You cannot have your quarterback options be Sam Darnold and Matt Corral. That will get you fired. For all the bad stuff we can say about Baker Mayfield, Darnold's worse. He has never been a good NFL QB. He has lived off of his draft reputation for years. He was bad in New York. He was just as bad, if not worse, in Carolina. Look at those numbers. They did not improve at all for Sam Darnold. He's not a good quarterback. Baker Mayfield is better than Sam Darnold. So the Panthers check in at number 2 purely out of desperation because that organization, Baker's better than Darnold and Matt Corral. He might not be their long-term answer, but he might be enough for them to not all get fired after this season. So I want you guys right now to rank Baker Mayfield among NFL QBs. I was hyped for a breakout year after 2020, played a top 10 QB down the stretch, and then was a disaster this year. He's not 1. He ain't 10. Probably not 20. But he's not 32 either. So I want to hear from you guys. Rank Baker Mayfield right now among NFL quarterbacks. Number 1 is the Seattle Seahawks because maybe the Carolina Panthers go get Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that leaves then Seattle as the ideal fit for Baker. And I know what has been said by Pete Carroll of, we got Drew Lock and Geno Smith. That's fine, and we're not going to trade for a QB. It's fine. They're not good, though. Like, I know Pete Carroll said Drew Lock would be first QB drafted. Would he have been? We have seen Lock get starts in the NFL with a supporting cast that was good enough to be viewed as a contender now with Russell Wilson. He's a sub 60% completion guy with a barely 1-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. 6.7 yards per attempt is bad. Like, that team, Drew Lock is not good. Geno Smith has never been good in the NFL as a former early-round pick by the Jets. If Seattle wants to try Baker Mayfield, he would, I think, by a significant margin, be better than any QB on this roster. That includes Jacob Eason, by the way, and UDFA Levi Lewis. So for Seattle, if they could get him for a trade, Brown needs some money, awesome. If he gets released, they should be all over Baker Mayfield because he is significantly better than what they have right now on their roster. Maybe Seattle feels differently, but since they ain't going to trade for Jimmy G because the Niners are going to send him in division, Baker to Seattle, I think makes a lot of sense if the money is, of course, the number one issue right now, can be worked out.